Well, who doesn't love to demonstrate pooping outside, right? Hi folks, it's Switchback. I've heard people ask, if animals can poop outside, why can't humans? Why can't we leave our dog poop? This video is going to address those and talk about how to poop responsibly outside. Human and dog poop are not the same as wild animal poop. Not only is our diet different, we're clearly not eating stuff that's native to the areas that we're camping and hiking in, whereas, of course, wild animals do, and they're just returning that matter to the earth. But we also carry diseases that can make wild animals really sick or even kill them if they are exposed to them. When you're choosing a spot to go poop, please don't just pick up a big heavy rock, poop under there, and then put it back. Multiple reasons. One, there's a microenvironment under there. There's life, even if you don't necessarily see it. Two, it really doesn't biodegrade very well under there. And three, trail maintenance folks are going to be the ones who are most likely to come upon that, and oftentimes too late. Because they do use a lot of the natural features out there to repair the trails that we enjoy. In order of how ideal for the space that you're in, number one, if toilets or privies are provided, use those first. These are primarily going to be in areas where, for various reasons, such as the terrain or just how much foot traffic there is from humans, cat holes just aren't feasible. Number two, pack it out. No, the plastic is not biodegradable, and to some degree, yes, it is trading one problem for another. Your last resort is going to be a cat hole, which is basically burying your poop, and we'll go into that in a minute, but first let's talk more about packing it out. You have a couple different options for packing out your poop. The first one is a bag that is specifically designed for this, often referred to as a wag bag or a blue bag. The other option is to use dog poop bags. With the first one, you will generally poop directly into the bag, whereas with the dog poop bags, you'll pick it up the same way that you would if you're responsibly cleaning up after your dog. The nice thing with that is that you don't pick up and carry out any pee that might come out inadvertently while you're going poop. One thing I really love about packing it out rather than trying to dig a cat hole is that your only criterion for a good spot is going to be privacy and perhaps a place to lean. You don't have to think about your proximity to campsites or water features, how hard the ground is, or if there are roots. I personally carry mine out in a dry bag. Some people make a poop tube out of PVC pipes with plugs, which I would imagine probably contains the smell better than my dry bag, so I may actually try this at some point. Some people just shove it at the bottom of their backpack, which sounds like a disaster waiting to happen to me. Packing it out is especially important in high alpine areas, river canyons, caves, and the desert. Even though they're not required in the Sierra, I often take them with me because a lot of the area is granite, and so that makes it obviously very limited how many places there are for cat holes. Plus, most of the trails there are pretty heavily populated, and most of the real estate within 400 yards of the trail, which is where most people tend to stay, is already pretty well established as an existing cat hole. If the ground is frozen or there's deep snow, then you're definitely going to need to pack it out. If you're getting any value out of this, or you find this mildly entertaining, which if you're still watching at this point, I certainly hope that you do, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and give it a like. Next, let's talk about what happens when you need to dig a cat hole. If you're concerned about getting lost when you're going off trail to go find a good place to poop, then watch this video up here. I have a great tip to help keep you from getting lost while on your way out to go poo. If you're going to dig a cat hole, you can use a trekking pole, a tent stake, or you can take a designated trowel. But whatever you use, none of them should ever touch your poop. Find a spot that's at least 200 feet from any trails, campsites, or existing or potential water sources. And by potential water sources, I mean seasonal spots that might be dry at that time. If you're going to be having multiple cat holes because there are multiple people in your party, or because you're going to be spending more than one night where you are, try to disperse them rather than grouping them all in the same area, if at all possible. The perfect unicorn spot for a cat hole is going to be inconspicuous, away from people, in direct sunlight where that can aid in decomposition. And so a south-facing slope will generally get more sun if you're in the northern hemisphere. The spot should be elevated where water runoff is unlikely to go, because part of what we're trying to avoid is water contamination. It should have deep, rich soil with lots of organic matter to help aid in decomposition. It'll usually be dark and rich in color. Again, this is the unicorn perfect spot. You just do the best you can and try to meet as many of these criteria as are feasible. As you go to start digging your hole, don't use your foot to push your tent stake or your trowel into the ground, which is a very common first aid and search and rescue injury, because those things can be sharp at the top and go right through your boot or your shoe into your foot. If the ground is hard, use a rock to dig in your trowel, or you can use a tent stake. And sometimes I'll even use a rock to dig those into the hard ground. Dig a hole that's 6 to 8 inches deep, or 4 to 6 inches if you're in the desert. If the ground is too hard, it's just not feasible to get that deep, then you're going to need to go wider. If you do have to go wider, consider putting a heavy rock on top to keep animals from digging it up. When it comes to wiping, if you want to use natural materials, then you need to be familiar with the plant life in that area. Know what the poisonous plants are and what is safe to go on your skin. Not a fun way to get poison ivy or poison oak. Be mindful of ticks that are in grasses and just anything that might irritate your skin, like stinging nettles, other problems. Some people use leaves or grasses, other people use rocks. Whatever you use, it should be buried in the hole with your poop. Only if it's natural materials. Don't ever bury toilet paper or wipes, even if they claim to be biodegradable. After you've gone poop in your hole, use a stick and stir a little bit of dirt into the poop to aid in decomposition. If you had to go shallower and wider, then try to spread the poop a little bit. I never promised this was going to be glamorous. Fill in your hole with dirt, but don't pack it down, because that will slow the decomposition. X does not mark the spot. Do not leave an X in sticks or leave a stick sticking out. You want to cover it up with natural matter to camouflage it with the area. I want to reiterate, pack out your toilet paper and your wipes, even if they claim to be biodegradable. You have various options for what to use. I personally just take a Ziploc, like a quart size, because they tend to be a little thicker than like the sandwich size. Some people will use duct tape on the outside of it to make it more inconspicuous, or they'll use like a zippered food bag of some kind. If you choose to use a food bag, make sure that it's a pristinely clean one and not one that still smells like food. The old advice back when I grew up backpacking was to put it all in the cat hole, to burn everything. But obviously that increases risk for a forest fire, so this is no longer the recommendation. If you're out backpacking, when you get to your camp for the night, consider digging your cat hole ahead of time, and then that way, if you have a more urgent situation in the morning, it's just one less thing you have to deal with. And let me tell you just how nice this is when you really have to go. Now, if that situation does arise and you don't already have a hole dug, try to get to an area that's a good spot for a cat hole. Just let it go on the ground, and then after you're done, dig a hole next to where you pooped and use a stick to scrape everything in and proceed as you normally would with a cat hole. If you don't want to use natural matter or toilet paper, another option is to carry a backcountry bidet. This is a great option if you have lots of access to water, not so much if water is scarce or if it is below freezing. Some people just air dry after using a bidet. Even though they weren't designed for this, some people do dry off with a cooler cloth afterwards. And if you do decide to do this and you're using one also to go pee, then make sure that you have one that looks different. I personally like to use wipes, and this gives me less to pack out because I'll fold it over itself, wipe, fold, that kind of thing. As for the squat, you can just do a deep squat if your body is able to do that. Another option is to use a strap called a crap strap, which is actually a thing, and here's a picture of that. You can also sit over a log, lean against a rock or a tree, or support yourself with a trekking pole or a tree branch. As far as your clothing goes, I suggest your pants and underwear go around your knees rather than around your ankles, or even worse, completely off, where if your privacy is quickly breached or you need to make a quick exit for safety, your sans pants. I have seen that this is a big question in other poop videos, so I hope that this helps address it. One little trick that I do to also keep them out of the way is I will use my hand to pull my pants and underwear forward to keep the risk even lower. You can just gel your hands afterwards. I really prefer to do an actual hand wash, and since I'm already over 200 feet away from a water source, this is a perfect area to do it. I use the minimal amount of soap possible, and then I use my gravity filter. Just wash for 20 seconds, good solid scrub, rinse, and then I'm good. Circling back to toilets and privies, sometimes in the backcountry you'll see composting toilets or ones that are designated just for solid waste, meaning poop and nothing else, not even pee, unless it says otherwise. Do the very best you can to adhere to this. Let's touch on peeing outside. So luckily, pee really has a minimal impact on vegetation. One impact that your urine can have when it's out on the ground is that it can attract wildlife. And so peeing on gravel, on pine needles, on rocks, or even diluting your urine can help reduce that risk. The animals love the salt. Now going back to the poop, there is a big push now to pack out your poo, and I thought that this was going to be a pretty big deal, but realistically, it's really not nearly as big of a deal as I thought it would be. And if you want to hear about my experience with it and what you should do with that, I have this video for you here. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, like the video, share it with anyone who you think would benefit, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.